The ongoing violent conflict between Israel and Hamas has escalated dramatically in the past few days. On Saturday, Hamas launched a massive multi-front attack on Israel, firing thousands of rockets and sending fighters to infiltrate Israel's borders. This surprise offensive, dubbed Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, has left over 700 Israelis and 400 Palestinians dead so far. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay informed. Israel has responded with airstrikes on Gaza and ground operations to stop Hamas fighters who breached the borders. Prime Minister Netanyahu has declared a state of war and vowed to take mighty vengeance against Hamas. Amidst this crisis, reports indicate that Kenya has received an official invitation to provide military assistance to the Israel Defense Forces. Kenya has the highest number of Israel-trained special forces, especially the Air Force in Africa. Kenya is said to be the only African country invited for a potential role in the war. This is, however, not strange given that the Israel-Kenya relationship goes back to the days of Idi Amin of Uganda. Kenya played a huge role in rescuing the kidnapped Israel citizens from the hands of this brutal dictator. Also, during the bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Kenya, Israel Army and relief personnel were the first ones to show up. This unexpected development adds a new dimension to the conflict, given that Kenya has proven to be a force to reckon with after successive Somali invasion and conquering of Kismayu. However, we'll be keeping a close eye on how Kenya responds and potentially contributes to the resolution efforts. The international community is closely monitoring the escalating conflict. Russia has labeled the situation as a very great danger for the region and called for a ceasefire. Meanwhile, Iran has called for an emergency meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, emphasizing the Palestinian issue as a top priority for the Islamic world. Today we'll examine the latest updates on the escalating Israel-Hamas war and Kenya's potential involvement. Hamas surprise attack on Israel. On Saturday morning, the militant group Hamas initiated a massive multi-pronged attack on Israel, taking the country completely by surprise. Thousands of rockets were fired from Gaza into central and southern Israel. Many major cities like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem were targeted. At the same time, Hamas fighters infiltrated Israel's borders by tunnel, land, sea, and air. Up to 1,000 militants may have been involved in the complex attack. Small teams of heavily armed Hamas fighters breached the fences and entered Israeli territory, at least 5 miles in some areas. This is the deepest incursion ever achieved by Hamas. The militants exchanged fire with Israeli troops and attacked civilians. Dozens of Israelis were killed in the initial hours of fighting. Israel was unprepared for an attack of this scale on a major holiday. Their intelligence services had not detected plans for this offensive. The surprise factor allowed Hamas to inflict severe damage and take Israelis hostage before Israel could mount an effective defense. Israel's response and rising death toll. As soon as the extent of the attack was realized, Israel initiated a massive retaliation campaign dubbed Operation Iron Swords. Airstrikes in Gaza have destroyed hundreds of Hamas military sites, including launch pads, weapons depots, tunnels, and training camps. Ground forces have been battling Hamas militants who breached the borders. Special forces operations are underway to root out cells that infiltrated deep into Israel. So far, over 700 Israelis have been killed by Hamas rocket attacks and border infiltrations. The death toll is expected to rise further. Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have left over 400 Palestinians dead. With Gaza's fragile health system damaged, the casualties could increase. The total death tally of over 1,100 makes this the deadliest conflict between Israel and Hamas in several decades. Attacks on civilians. This round of violence has seen Hamas deliberately target Israeli civilians in various parts of the country. One of the worst attacks was on an outdoor music festival near the Gaza border attended by thousands. Hamas gunmen opened fire on the trapped revelers, killing at least 260 people. Scores of attendees were also taken hostage and paraded through the streets of Gaza by the militants. Other civilian sites hit by Hamas include homes, schools, buses, and shopping areas. Israel has also been accused of some civilian deaths in its airstrikes on Gaza. The hostage situation. A disturbing part of this conflict is Hamas' taking of civilian and military hostages during a ground incursion into Israel. Reports suggest at least 100 Israelis are currently being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. The actual number may be higher. The hostages include women, children, and elderly people from border towns, as well as IDF soldiers. Even foreign nationals have been captured. Videos of terrified hostages being paraded in Gaza have emerged. Hamas is threatening to execute them if Israel doesn't meet demands. This hostage scenario complicates Israel's military response. It increases international pressure for a ceasefire and negotiating with Hamas. Regional spillover. There are concerns the Israel-Hamas war could spiral into a wider regional conflict. Hamas is backed by Israel's arch-enemy Iran, who may have aided the surprise attack. In response, Israel has ramped up military action well beyond Gaza. Airstrikes have hit sites belonging to Iranian-backed Hezbollah militants in Lebanon and Syria. Hezbollah has started firing rockets into Israel from Lebanon, expanding the fronts of conflict. Jordan, Egypt, and several Arab states have appealed for de-escalation, but hardline Muslim nations like Iran and Turkey have vigorously supported Hamas. The US, UK, and several European countries have backed Israel's right to self-defense, while urging both sides to avoid civilian deaths. Also, the USA and NATO have steered their aircraft carriers towards sea near Israel for any support. However, Russia has condemned Israel's actions. Kenya's involvement. According to emerging reports, Kenya has received a formal invitation from Israel to contribute forces to assist the Israel Defense Forces. Kenya is said to be the only African country approached by Israel for potential military assistance against Hamas. Other African nations do not seem to have received such requests. Details are scarce about Kenya's possible role should it decide to join operations. Kenya could deploy special forces and intelligence personnel experienced in counterterrorism. Kenya has built close security ties with Israel in recent years. Kenya sees Israel as an important ally against Islamist terror groups like al-Shabaab. But joining the conflict may carry risks for Kenya. It would antagonize Muslim populations at home and abroad. It could also invite retaliation from Hamas and its backers. The Kenyan government is likely weighing the pros and cons before making a decision. But President Ruto has expressed solidarity with Israel against Hamas attacks. For now, many other countries are also assessing whether direct military support for Israel would be prudent amidst the deteriorating situation. Escalation of violence. The Israel-Hamas conflict continues to intensify after the surprise offensive by Hamas over the weekend. Both sides have stepped up military action. Israel has called up thousands of reservists to bolster its forces for an extended campaign against Hamas. A ground offensive to take control of Gaza also seems likely. Hamas has openly dared Israel to send troops into Gaza, vowing fierce resistance. It has also threatened to expand attacks deeper into Israel. With over 1,100 already dead, this war is seeming more and more like a fight to the finish between sworn enemies. A ceasefire seems unlikely in the current heated climate. The hostage crisis also reduces chances of a diplomatic solution. The world is watching nervously as the Middle East plunges into another destructive war with no end in sight. Kenya, too, may soon feel compelled to take sides. The sudden escalation of violence between Israel and Hamas has shocked the world. Hamas' brazen attack on Israel and the heavy retaliation has led to a dangerous war. With over 1,000 lives lost already, there seems to be no stopping the two rivals trading deadly blows. Hardliners on both sides seem determined to keep up the fight. The reported invitation to Kenya to join the Israel Defense Forces adds an unexpected African angle to this Middle Eastern crisis. It places Kenya in a difficult diplomatic position. This remains a fast-developing situation with immense humanitarian impact. The world hopes cooler heads will prevail soon to prevent further loss of life. But for now, the endgame remains ominously uncertain.
We hope this was informative and entertaining for you. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share our videos. This will go far in helping us make better videos. Until next time, keep twitting and achieving your dreams. Don't let anything put you down. Bye for now.